All right, so good morning, everyone. We will start with the first unit, which is communication. And the first topic of communication is introduction to communication. All right, so I'll skip the first activity. I'll skip the first activity that I've kept here. We'll move on to straight away what is communication. So I will read it out first for you. The root word communication is taken from the Latin word communicare, which means to make common to many or to share. Like every language in the world is, picked from different languages. Like in Nepali, if you see, we have picked words, we have borrowed words from maybe English or Hindi. We have some common words. Hindi has picked it up from some place. English has picked up from French words, from Latin words. So if you go back to the history of language, wherever people have traveled, they have left back so many things. Like Britishers were here for 200 years, and what they left back, besides leaving back the railways for us and the education system, they gave us a new language, which was English. Similarly, English also took words from others. Like here you read that communication is taken from a Latin word. All right? And the Latin word is communicare. So in Latin you call it communicare. And it means to make common to many, make it common for many people, or to share, right? Any form of sharing is called communicare, which in turn in English is called communication. So communication is therefore the process of sharing thoughts, ideas, and feelings with one another in a commonly understandable way. So it is not only the process of sharing. It is not only the process of sharing your thoughts, your emotions, your ideas, your feelings. We have, as soon as we are born, the moment we start growing up, we have so many things in our head which we do not want to keep to ourselves. We want to share with others. So this process of sharing is called communication, but the communication has to happen in a commonly understandable way. For example, I open a unit today and I give you a class in maybe Spanish. How many of you will understand? Not many of you will understand. Why? Because we already have a problem with the language. It has to be understandable. So as long as it is not understandable, communication does not happen. If I tell you tomorrow is a holiday, but I tell you the same thing in French, and what happens tomorrow? Everybody will come to the class. Why? Because you did not even understand that tomorrow is a holiday. Because I spoke in a language which is not familiar to you. Alright, so communication is not just sharing, but sharing in a very understandable way. The other person has to understand what you're saying. It is the process of sending and receiving information by gestures, talk, or writing for a response or action. So it is the process of sending and receiving information. How do you send and receive information? The whole process of sending and receiving has to happen with a medium. And what is that medium? Through gesture. You know what is a gesture? Gesture means the movement of your hands. Like you wave to, when you see someone, you say hi, you wave your hands. That is a gesture. Waving of hand is a gesture. When you meet someone, you do namaste. Namaste is a gesture for a greeting. It's a gesture of a greeting. You are just trying to greet someone. You don't even have to say anything. Just when you fold your hands in a namaste, people understand you are greeting them. When you wave your hands, people understand you are saying hi or you're saying bye. All right. When you show two fingers up, people understand it's a sign for victory or for peace. So these signs that you make with your hands, those are called gestures. All right. So you can share and receive information through gestures, through talking, like I'm doing right now. That is also a medium to communicate, the medium to share information. You talk. Or writing for a response or action, or you write. So these are the kind of ways in which you can communicate, through gestures, through talking, through writing. You write a letter, you want to say something to someone, you don't want to face that person, you still want to say something. So what do? You text a message. So that texting, that writing is also a way to communicate. So that is communication. All right, it's taken from a Latin word. It means to share, and sharing of information, ideas, feelings, but in a very understandable way and through gestures, through spoken words, or through your writing. All right, so let's move on to the next thing, which is some essential features of communication. Everything you study about has a feature. All right, so communication also has a few common features, essential features. The first feature, excuse me, the first feature, communication involves at least two persons. Of course, you can communicate with yourself, when you're all alone and you have a voice in your head that is constantly talking to you, that is telling you to do this, do that, not to do this, not to do that. That happens. But in actual communication has to involve two people. One person who sends the message and the other person who receives the message. All right? So communication involves at least two people, the sender and the receiver. The second feature is communication is a two-way process. It is not one way. One way means you just send the information. All right? Sending the information is not communicating. As long as the other person who is receiving the information tells you they have received, or sends some gesture in which you realize that they have understood what you have said, you have not communicated. So it has to be two-way. Just like while I'm speaking right now, if this was a regular classroom and I would have looked at you and maybe a few people yawning at the back, they are also sending me an information, through the gesture, through yawning. So it means they are getting bored of what I'm saying. They don't like it. Or maybe someone is asking me questions, that is also a feedback from them, which means they are listening to what I'm saying and they want to know more about things that I'm saying. So it has to be a two-way process. One way you send message and the other way you receive message. So communication is essentially a two-way process. It does not merely mean sending and receiving messages. It is not complete unless and until the message has been understood by the receiver in the same sense. So I sent you a message, please come to the class. Unless and until you don't come to the class, it means you have not received the message. All right, you have not understood what I said. So communication was incomplete. So it has to be a two-way process. You have to receive the message, I have to send the message, you have to receive the message, and then you have to communicate to me by coming to the class. All right, that was just an example. All right, the third essential feature, purpose of communication. Everything in life has a purpose. All right, why do you have a name? Your name has a purpose. Why do we not have numbers instead of names? There's a purpose behind everything. There is a purpose behind why you wake up in the morning, why you have chosen to study diploma. There's a purpose. What's the purpose? So similarly, communication also has to have a purpose. The basic purpose of communication is to create an understanding. So as human beings, our main purpose is to not just, live alone. Human beings are social animals, which means we need to live in a society, in a community, all right? And we can only live properly in a society or a community if we have an understanding, all right? Without understanding, what happens? There are wars. There are terrible wars. People die, people are killed. So we want to have a society which is very understanding, where people understand what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to do, all right? The receiver should understand the message sent and should respond accordingly. So the purpose of communication is the receiver not only understands the message, also responds accordingly, sends a response accordingly. So, like I said earlier, I gave you an example. I tell you, please come to the class tomorrow. So, if you come to the class tomorrow, if I see you in the class at 9 o'clock tomorrow, it means we have communicated, which means you heard me telling you, come to the class, and then you received the message, and then you understood the message, what you have to do. What you have to do is wake up tomorrow morning, get dressed, and come to the college. All right? If you do that, you have communicated. The fourth essential feature of communication. Communication is a continuous process. Some of you were there in my first class, which actually didn't happen the way I wanted it to. But yes, there I had discussed about how communication is continuous. All right? Even when I don't speak, I am still communicating. Like I come to the classroom, your teacher comes to the classroom, any teacher, all right? And what happens is the teacher comes inside, takes your attendance, and just keeps looking at you. Does not say anything, not one word. First of all, the whole class is talking. When the teacher first arrives, everybody is busy talking. The bell has just gone. The usual classroom scenario where, the bell has gone and the new teacher has arrived. So it takes time for the class to settle down. So the teacher is not saying a word. What happens? Suddenly everyone is quiet because they realize something is wrong. The teacher is not speaking. Now, what will you think? Why is the teacher not speaking? Maybe the teacher is angry. Maybe the teacher is not feeling well. Maybe the teacher is thinking about something. So I am, without opening my mouth, still giving you so many reasons why I'm not talking. All right? So you cannot not communicate. I cannot say I will not communicate with you from tomorrow because communication is not only about words. All right? You are communicating through your eyes, you are communicating through your hands, you are communicating through your entire body. So you cannot stop the process of communication. All right? That is why communication is a continuous process. It keeps happening until and unless you die. They bury you or they burn you, cremate you. Until then, you are constantly communicating with people. It says communication is an endless process, as is the case with business, where the manager continuously assigns work to his subordinates, tries to know the progress of the work, and gives directions. Just like a manager does that, He gives work to his employees. So manager says, tomorrow you have to do this, and this. All right. Then what does he do after giving the work? He has to know the progress. You cannot stop after giving the work to someone. You tell your little brother, go clean your room. If you don't check the room, then you have not done your job. After you give someone a work, your job is to see the progress. Has the person done the job you gave them? All right. So you know the progress of the work and then you give directions. You should have done this, all right? Please arrange your bed this way or arrange your books properly. These are directions you give to your brother. So it is a continuous process. You cannot stop somewhere. You cannot say, I gave them the work, like I give you a homework and I never check and I never ask you. There's no point. So it has to be continuous. I have to keep asking you, all right? And the fifth essential feature, use of words as well as symbols. So you don't only use words in communication, you also use symbols, like I said, your gestures, your hands, your fingers, your eyes, all these little symbols, like written symbols, oral symbols. There are so many symbols we use in writing. Every letter that you are using, like the letter A or B, all these are little symbols, all right? These symbols, they represent sound. Let me show you one thing. Wait. Where can I draw? Wait. Where can I draw? Okay, let's try this. So I write this. What is this? If I ask you, you will say it is A. It is not A. It is the symbol, a symbol that stands for the sound of, the sound is A. All right? The sound of this symbol is A. If I ask you, if I ask you, what is this? If you say this is a tree, it is wrong. This is not a tree. This is a symbol of a tree. A tree is what you see outside. Here, what I'm drawing is not a tree. It's a drawing of a tree. It's a symbol of a tree. Alright? If I do this, what is this? If you say this is a heart, a human organ, then you are wrong. This is the symbol of a heart, the symbol of love. Alright? So communicating through symbols is also very much done since, historical ages, ages past. You have been communicating through symbols. You just draw a heart, you understand what the other person wants to tell you. Alright? So communication, these are the features. I will repeat once again. Communication involves at least two persons. One who is the sender, who sends the message, and the other is the receiver, who is receiving the message. The second is communication is a two-way process. So sending and receiving, that is two-way, alright? One is sending, other is receiving, and it is not complete unless the receiver understands your message. It is not complete. The third is there's a purpose of communication. And what is the purpose? The purpose is to create an understanding between people. Not just people. I communicate to my dog. My dog understands what I'm trying to say. I show my dog a stick. The communication is happening. The dog is, realizing what is about to happen. So there is a purpose in communication. The fourth one, it is a continuous process. You can never stop communicating, all right? And you cannot give directions, and you cannot just tell a person a message and think that your job is done. It does not happen. It has to be continuously going on. You have to keep on, checking the progress, getting feedback from them. So that is why it is continuous. And the last one, communication not only uses words, it also uses symbols like the ones I showed you. Alright, so I think I will keep it till here because next we can go to the process of communication. I think that we can do in the next class. For today, first you check if you've understood what I've said till here. Maybe I'll give you a few questions. I'll ask you a few questions. Please come on Google Classroom after a while. Alright, thank you so much.